Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever you're watching. Welcome to the United Stand. This is the big one. Celta Vigo coming up very soon. I know that we're all feeling very nervous about it, but a little bit of light relief. I say that with a tint of salt in the wound because a lot of you have been mentioning this. We've been talking about it on Twitter today. If Manchester United, the worst happens and we don't get into the Champions League through the Europa League or the miracle of top four, then how is the impact on the transfer list that Mourinho has this summer? Now, it is well known in the community of footballing, media and everything that Mourinho and Manchester United have their finger in many pies. In fact, they don't have enough fingers and they don't have enough pies because there are so many pies and so many fingers. I don't know where I'm going with these pies and fingers. It's got American pie in my head. Remember that? When his mum and dad come home and catch him screwing the apple pie. Disgusting. Hot, warm apple pie. But Manchester United, two transfer lists is effectively what they have in place. A Champions League one and a Europa League one. Now, what I've said this morning, what I've been saying on the transfer shows are this. We're Manchester United. There are things we can do that nobody else can do. Anything is possible. We signed Paul Pogba last summer. With no Champions League football. Chelsea, Arsenal, Manchester City, Liverpool. Liverpool couldn't sign Paul Pogba's brother from Saint Etienne, let alone Paul Pogba. But none of those clubs could do what we've done. There's only a handful, probably not even a handful of clubs in world football that could go and do what we did last summer without Champions League football. I think Real Madrid or Barcelona, if they weren't in a pub league and they weren't always in the Champions League, I think they could pull Pogba off. It's brewed tonight, pull Pogba off. God, I didn't mean that. They could pull a Paul Pogba deal off. I think obviously Manchester United can, Barcelona could, I think PSG could, and I think Bayern Munich could, but they'd never be out of the Champions League anyway. So Manchester United can do anything, and that is the positive here. Look, we've been talking about it on Twitter. I must also add, this will be a Skype show. You can Skype in. Not yet. I've got a few things I need to feed into the show, but you will be able to Skype in and give your thoughts because this is a fan opinion channel, and me just giving you what I think is not a balanced view at all, although I am the best. Being a bit of a knob tonight, but I feel like it. But yes, so we can do anything we want. Literally, we can. We can sign anybody we want. So if we don't get into the Champions League, a fool would say we can't sign Griezmann. They would. But I do believe that if we end up in the Europa League, there are certain signings we will not be able to make. We will not be able to make volume signings of top talent. If we get into the Champions League, it is conceivable that we could sign Griezmann, we could sign Aubameyang, we could sign, I'm thinking of the top talent here, I don't know, Jimenez from Atletico Madrid, Oblak. These are the sort of signings that I think to sign 3 or 4 of them, you've got to have Champions League football. If you haven't got Champions League football and Europa League, I think you're potentially looking at James Rodriguez, Michael Keane, Kasper Schmeichel, Joe Hart, Javier Hernandez, Ross Barkley. You're looking at that step down. Now we can pull off a Griezmann. Oh, it's getting so rude tonight. I'm going to say pull off. We could sign Antoine Griezmann. Because we've done it before. We've signed Pogba without Champions League football. We signed Mkhitaryan without Champions League football. But my feelings have missed a contribution. Sorry, I did see that. I think it was about American Pie. Thanks for the contribution, Nicholas Anderson. He said American Pie is a classic. It is. Is that the film or the little thing I said about... No, let's not go there. But yeah, I don't think we'll sign Griezmann without Champions League football. And there's a reason for this. I think, look, he's very good friends with Paul Pogba. And I think we got Paul Pogba on the basis of this. Paul Pogba, when we signed him, was 22, 23. One of the most sought-after midfield talents. We overpaid for him by about 30 million to stop anybody else bidding for him. We didn't have Champions League football. We had Jose Mourinho, the ego and probably the best, he is for me, manager in the world. Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs in the world. A project. Come to us, Manchester. Come to us, Paul, and join up with Mourinho. We'll only be out for 1 season, and you'll embed yourself in the Premier League, and then next season we've got Champions League and we go for it. And I think that's what Paul Pogba signed up for. We're not going to have Champions League football potentially. And would Paul Pogba have signed knowing that he wasn't going to get Champions League football for 2 years? And I think that may be the concern for somebody like a Griezmann or even an Aubameyang or someone like that, or an Mbappe. because it's like, well, I could sign, but Pogba signed and they didn't get Champions League football. How long could I be out of the Champions League? And we're not forgetting we'd have to do the Europa League next year. So there is definitely, you're right, a lot of you have said this, there is definitely a defining line between if we get Champions League football and what's available, and if we don't get Champions League football and what's available. And that is, I know that puts a little bit more pressure, and I can feel the pressure and nerves myself as a fan. I feel like, we need to get Champions League football. One, because I want to be in the Champions League, but two, I think Mourinho's had a difficult year. I think he's established what he knows he needs at Manchester United. I think he's been let down by some people that he thought would be more contributing to the season. I'm talking about, people like Rooney. I think he expected more from them over a season than he got. And this summer, I think he knows what he needs to do. But if he's stuck in the Europa League again, I think that is an Achilles heel injury that will that is why he has 2 transfer lists. So what could we be looking at? What do I believe that we'd be looking at? I've come up with a bit of a list, and I think, look, Champions League, all bets are off. If we're in the Champions League, all bets are off. I've never said we're going to sign Neymar, but we know Woodward likes Neymar. We know Neymar was in London a couple of days ago. We know Neymar's mentioned Manchester United. I don't think we're going to sign Neymar, but all bets are off. Manchester United can do anything. If we're in the Champions League, anything is possible. We really could sign anybody. I wouldn't rule Ronaldo out, Messi out, Neymar out, anybody. Now, I'm not saying we're going to sign them. I don't think we will, but any of those are possible. They're not possible if we're not in the Champions League. They're not. You're not going to get Neymar. You're not going to get Ronaldo. I don't think you'll get Griezmann. So what happens if we're in the Europa League? What happens if the worst comes to the worst? And this is a sort of list of I think people like Belotti at Torino. He's not in the Champions League. I think if you pay the money, you get the player. He's a sort of like borderline player. Lukaku, again, probably wants to leave Everton to go to the Champions League. But Everton have never been in the Champions League. I think if Manchester United offered him the money, and I don't think Mourinho is interested in, I think we could get Lukaku as well if we're not in the Europa League. I'm not saying we're going to get all these, but these are the sort of players that we could get. James Rodriguez, fed up at Real Madrid, same agent as Jose Mourinho. I think he'd swim to Manchester United. I think we could get him regardless. Bernardo Silva at Monaco, 22 years of age. I think we could do that deal without Champions League football. Fabinho, again, the same, also at Monaco. Joe Hart, Jordan Pickford, Michael Keane, definitely we could get him without Champions League football. He's never been near it. Ross Barkley, I know a lot of people don't like him, but again, I think he's the sort of player you could get. Perisic, the left winger at Inter, definitely could get him. Oxlade-Chamberlain, a few people have mentioned him. If Arsenal are willing to sell, I think we could get him. Morata, again, similar situation to Rodriguez. Obviously, he's a centre-forward at Real Madrid, looking to get out. I think we could get someone like him. Van Dijk at Southampton as a centre-back. Obviously, Hernandez at Bayer Leverkusen. I think he would come back to Manchester United if we were playing in Championship, to be honest. Riyad Mahrez at Leicester, Zuma. I mean, these are just some of the names that have been given to us. And I think, I would tend to agree that those are the sort of players that we could get quite comfortably. And they're not the bad calibre of players. But I really do believe that Mourinho has a different list, a higher list that I'm not even going to speculate at. A list that really is the creme de la creme of footballers in world football that he wants at Manchester United. And I think we will be stunted if we don't have Champions League football. But let's have a look. Let's have a look at what some people are saying. Marcus Lindbergh saying, I really want Willian. Would he be dependent on Champions League football or not? I think he's dependent on whether Chelsea would let him go. United Red Devil says no Neymar. We've got Ashley Young. And Starkiller says, if you're good enough, you don't play Europa. It's simple. This United team would get smashed bad in the Champions League. And Andrew Ellis says, my target would be Van Dijk, Kyle Walker, Defoe and Icardi for Europa League. Well, I nearly was sick, Andrew, but actually that is probably the sort of realistic thing you'd be talking about in Europa League. Van Dijk, Kyle Walker, Jermaine Defoe, Icardi, Lacazette, that sort of player, I think. You won't get the top players, and if we won't get loads of them anyway. Let's get Alexis Sanchez instead of Griezmann, says August, Palsgaard, Rasmussen. And what does Mark look at when talking? Normally the camera. Come on, Man United, we can get Champions League, says Thunder X. Lukaku will go to Chelsea. And I like the look of Oxlade-Chamberlain, says not even joking. He's not even joking. I really want Fabinho, says Fraser Graham. You know what, Fraser? I like Fabinho. I know he's playing at the moment and they're losing, but I like Fabinho, and he's really come to the fore for me because he's a centre defensive midfielder and he's a very good one. He moves the ball well, he's tenacious, athletic, but we also need cover for Valencia, and he used to play right back, and he can play right back, and he can cover at centre back. So he would be the one. And it was music to my ears on the transfer show this morning I did to hear that Di Marzio mentioning that we're interested in Fabinho, because I think he's perfect. I think he can play a number of positions very, very well. He would be absolutely perfect for us. And I don't think he'd be Champions League dependent, because he is a client of George Mendes, Mourinho's agent. I hope we do that deal. I've got a good feeling about it. Keep your eye on Di Marzio. Well, you don't need to keep your eye on Di Marzio. Keep your eye on United Stand, because it's somebody who was fantastic last summer. He's the number one when it comes to it. And when he comes out and says that we bid for Mbappe, and Sky Sports come out and say that we haven't, and people are on Twitter saying, Mark, Sky Sports have confirmed it hasn't happened, don't listen to Di Marzio. This is the same Sky Sports that last April told us we'd signed Gundogan. Sky Sports are not as good as Di Marzio. I will say it publicly. I've said it so many times. Sky Sports, they need to improve, and I think they are getting better, and I monitor them all. But Sky Sports, to be honest, they're not much better than someone like the Daily Mail. They're not the Sun or the Metro, but they're not up there. They're not up there with like Independent and Guardian. They are definitely Daily Mail when it comes to transfer news. They're not spot on at all. I'm going to open up Skype. I want to get some of your thoughts, but I was just having a look at some of your comments. We need Lukaku or Griezmann, says United fan. Falcao, perhaps, says Teco DL. I think that deal's done. That ship has sailed. And to be honest, in fairness to Falcao, I don't think he would suit the Premier League. I think it was too fast for him. He isn't the player he was. He's done very well for Monaco, but he isn't the player that he was at Monaco before the knee injury, before he came to Manchester United. Okay, Skype Goldbridge it's not Skype Goldbridge. Skype is open. What do I want? I want you to call in Skype Goldbridge, all one word, Skype Goldbridge. Don't start asking me questions about what goalie we're going to sign. I want you to call in and tell me what you think about the impact of Europa League over Champions League. I've got Shvi on the call. Hello, Shvi, can you hear me?
Hey, Mark, I can hear you well. Can you hear me?
Hey, I can hear you perfectly. So we're talking about the impact of Champions League football on if we don't have Champions League football for Manchester United. I've obviously gone through a list of players there that I think we could get with Europa League, and I think there are certain players we won't be able to get. What's your thoughts on that?
I'd have to agree. In that, I'm just going to echo a thought that I think it was Matt Marcus mentioned on the Sunday Night Live show that beginning of this season it was a lot easier for us to sign your Pogbas and so on, because one, we just got one of the best managers in the world, and well, probably the best, debatable obviously, and you know, it was all still very fresh starts, and it was a very optimistic looking future, and we had only been out of the Champions League for 1 year. Now, it starts looking a little bit more bleak if we don't make Champions League this year. And again, like you'd mentioned yourself, and that we promised Paul Pogba we'd only be out of the Champions League for 1 year, but now he's getting 2. And then you look at like signing an Antoine Griezmann, who definitely is itching really badly for a Champions League medal. And he looks at it now and is just like, okay, well, Pogba was promised 1 year and now it's 2. So whereas in the beginning of this season, it was all really, really hopeful. It starts looking a little less like that now, given that we have the most expensive player in the world. We have the best manager in the world, and we still couldn't, I think it looks a lot worse that we couldn't make top 4 than it does that we couldn't win the Europa League, because the Europa League is obviously, I would think rather, the tougher route to get into Champions League. So I definitely think there's a B list we'd have to start looking at if we don't make Champions League. But with regards to that, Mark, is it okay if I ask you something?
Yes, please do. Go ahead.
Would it be so bad if we took the Chelsea route in terms of us not making the Champions League, focusing primarily on the league, winning the league next season, and then the following year being in the Champions League, as well as being the English champions, and then looking for the Galacticos signings? And the reason that I ask this is because I watch Man United's performances against, like, say, your Swanseas and so on, and I'll watch us almost getting knocked out in the quarterfinal of the Europa League, and I think to myself, if this is how we're currently playing, if we do make Champions League, and then you watch the Champions League matches there, and you look at the level of performances from those matches, would we, like, are we ready? Do you know what I mean? For the Champions League. So if, for example, we took the no Europe League, the no Europe tournaments next year, and then go on to win the league, and then the following year. So basically the long routes, the long-term routes, as opposed to the quick fix routes. Would that be the worst thing?
The problem Manchester United have got is that we are in the Europa League no matter what. The League Cup that we won qualifies us for the Europa League, so we will be in the Europa League, which I know you know that. But it's the same situation we were in this year. We could have ignored the Europa League this year and just gone out and focused on the league. The reality is that I don't believe we can do what Chelsea have done this season. Chelsea have had no European football. They stay in London Monday, all week. They focus on the game in the weekend tactically. They're fresh. They hit the game with their three at their back. Their fullbacks bombing up and down. It's the same as what Leicester did last year with no European football. You can just focus on each game. Obviously, around Christmas time, they struggled a bit, just like Liverpool did, because they have to play midweek like everybody else. The reality is, Manchester United, whether we rest players and don't use them in the Europa League, Mourinho's still got to do press conferences. He's still got to travel with that B team. If you're in the Europa League, you're in the Europa League, and I can't imagine that if we're in the Europa League next year, we would play a totally reserve side. And even if we did, it still impacts on you. You've still got a commitment to the Europa League. You've still got to do all the travelling as the manager and that. So he doesn't get his time in midweek with those players that are rested anyway. It's very, very impactful. So I don't feel that it can be done, to be honest. I think we will be left with what we're left with. But I think being in the Europa League next year will be... I mean, what's your thought on that? I mean, I sort of touched on it last night. If we are not in the Champions League this summer and win the Europa League, I mean, Mourinho's not going to be sacked. But as a season, what is that a failure?
I mean, I think when the season began, I remember Mourinho's very first press conference. He mentioned how at a club of the stature of Man United, you have to be winning everything. And I think we went on to win, our first 4 matches or something like that. And it was really looking really promising. And we were all going on about winning the league. And I remember that there was a video that you did on the United stand, and you even said it yourself. You were like, this might become a gift, but it's fine. I'm saying it now. United are going to win the league. And it's not just you, Mark. We all felt that way. So as things went on, as the season went on, we were sort of brought back down to earth. And then the Champions League became the minimum expectation. And as time went on even more, now the Europa League seemed more of a doable thing. Because I remember in the group stages, everyone was just like, we can even exit this competition now, it won't be an issue and it'll be fine. But then that now became the sort of minimum expectation. And then, okay, fair enough. Is it the League Cup? I forget whether it's Carling Cup or what it is now. But that for me is not even... It's cute, it's nice, we got a cup, okay, congratulations, we move on. But the fact that we got knocked out the FA Cup, we got knocked out the FA Cup, we essentially are no longer in the league. We're not in the race for the league. And all we have now is the Europa League and gunning for top 4. So if we can get neither the Europa League, nor do we make top 4, the season... Look, like you said yourself, we're not sacking Mourinho, but it is a bad season comparatively for, be it the money that we spent, be it the expectations that the fans had now that we have Mourinho in, and so on and so on. I'm not going to say it was an absolute disaster though, because if you compare the Man United team now to Van Gaal's Man United team and the style of play that we have now, there's definitely been an improvement, and sacking Mourinho would make absolutely no sense. I honestly fail to understand the people that are Mourinho out right now. It makes no sense to me at all. But giving the season a score overall, I think it would be bad. It would be bad, especially given this unbeaten run. We've gone so many games unbeaten, but we still couldn't make Champions League, which just makes no sense at all. Yeah. But a bad season, yes. Disastrous, catastrophic, no, not at all. Not at all.
Okay, thanks very much for calling in, Svi, from South Africa. Very good first caller, and please do call in again. Really good.
No problem, Mark. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, pal. Thank you. I do remember saying Manchester United are going to win the league. I was hoping that people would forget that. In my defence, I was very, very. We can't win the league. It's too much of a journey from where we were under Van Gaal to go and win the title. But I think I got a little bit carried away with all the signings and that. And I don't know whether I ever really believed we could do it or not. But the Mourinho out things that Svi was talking about there, I don't understand it either. I think what's happening is there are people who are sceptical. They have their doubts. They don't like some of the things Mourinho's doing. But I think it's too early to be Mourinho out. I think everyone's got a right to be a bit unhappy about things, but it's way too early to be Mourinho out, and I think he will turn it around. You know, I'm a big fan of his. The one thing I did think about was Pogba. Anybody ever thought that he might have something in his contract that if we don't get in the Champions League in the first year? I mean, I've not heard it anywhere, but is it beyond the realms of possibility that if we're not in the Champions League in that first summer that you're here, you can go? I don't think so. I think we'd know about it, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility, is it? Let's take another caller. Remember to drop a like on the video. Lots of people calling in. I love the Skype shows, so definitely back those people who are calling in. T Ballard says this is a rebuilding year for us. Let's be honest. Same for City and Liverpool. You know what? We've thrown Champions League football away anyway. By the amount of points that we've dropped in the league, we should have top four sewn up. It's our bad finishing that's cost us that. I mean, we're within touching distance of top four anyway. How many games have we drawn at home? So we've blown that. We're in the semi-final of the Europa League. We won the League Cup. We were robbed in the FA Cup. The football is far better than it was under Louis van Gaal. There's definitely moves forward. I think what will happen is if we're in the Europa League this summer, we'll be all very angry and frustrated, but I think that's what it will be. It'll be frustration at the mistakes, the inefficiency of ourselves. It's not really because we've been awful. Right, I'm going to take another call. I want to get some of your thoughts on this topic tonight. Let's take Joe. Joe, can you hear me?
Hi Mark, can hear you.
Great. What did you want to say, pal?
I just want to say that tomorrow, as if we go to Celta Vigo and get any score draw, then I think we could take them back to Old Trafford and absolutely have them.
Yes, obviously Ajax destroyed Lyon 4-1.
Yeah, I saw that. 4-1.
A lot of people thought that it would be Lyon in the final. To be honest, I'm quite positive about that because Ajax are a very good footballing side, and if one matters to be believed, Celta Vigo are one of the top four footballing sides in La Liga. So we are going to be playing a team that moves the ball around, which is what Ajax do. So could be a good bit of practice for us tomorrow. I'd be happy with any sort of score draw. I think that's what you just said.
Yeah, the away goal's vital, I think, and hopefully if Mkhitaryan keeps his streak up of scoring away in the Europa League, then I think we'll be fine. Okay,
let's bring it back to what we're talking about. If the worst case scenario happens, do you still think that we can sign Griezmann's and any other of those top players? Let's say a Varane, a Griezmann. I've got some down here. Varane, Griezmann, maybe an Oblak. Do you think we can get people of that quality if we're in the Europa League this summer? Or do you think, I know we did it last summer, but do you think people will look at it and go, it's too much of a risk?
I think we can definitely get Griezmann, but I don't think we can get someone like Varane, because he's obviously playing at Madrid, who are in the Champions League year in year out, and they always seem to win it in recent years. So I don't think we can pull anyone away from Real Madrid, but definitely away from Atletico Madrid, because they look like they might not even get Champions League football this season.
Do you think that the impact on Champions League, if we don't get the Champions League, do you think the list that Mourinho has will have to change, or do you think he'll just go for the same players?
Yeah, I think it will, because obviously with most of the players we're aiming to sign, they're all going to be playing at Champions League clubs, apart from those who are playing at Atletico, because they're only, I think, the 5th in the Liga at the moment. They've not had a good season. But I don't know about players we want to sign from AC Milan, Inter Milan, even like Perisic. He'd be a good sign if we don't get Champions League, because he's hard working. And that's what we need at United, hard-working players, not players who stand around when stuff's not going the way, like Rooney does.
I was going to say, I totally agree with you. Look, if I think the nail on the head has probably been said in the fact that if we do end up in the Europa League this summer, it's going to be horrible because Liverpool will be in the Champions League and we won't, and it will be a bitter pill to swallow, and it will only have ourselves to blame. And I think there will be a lot of frustration that we mustn't interpret as being Mourinho out. I mean, I just think it's just one of them things. If we don't make it, we can only blame ourselves, but I don't think it's anything to do with what the manager's done wrong, really, because we put a few of those chances away at home against the likes of Burnley's, your Stokes, your Hulls, your Bournemouths, your West Broms, and we've got a handful of more points puts us into top four, so it'll be our own fault. But I agree with you that if we don't get into the Champions League and we are in the Europa League, there are still a lot of players that can come into our club and make us a better team. Because for me, the problem with our club at the moment is there's too much deadwood in there. We said it last summer. I think we were a bit sort of mugged ourselves off a bit, thinking that maybe it's not as bad as that because Mourinho has worked wonders with some of that deadwood. But I do think there's a lot of deadwood in there, and regardless of whether we're in the Champions League or not, I think we can still bring players like Perisic in from Inter. Even somebody like I know a lot of viewers like Michael Keane. Just having a look at some other names. Perisic, like you've said, even bringing Hernandez back, somebody who can put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, I was a huge fan of Javier Hernandez when he was at United. I've been a season ticket holder. I had one in the 2012-2013 season. Then I took a couple of years off, and I got one again this season. But Hernandez always, every time he came on, he always looked dangerous, and that's the kind of player we need, I think. Whether it's Hernandez or someone like Belotti or maybe even Gabbiadini from Southampton.
Yeah, I was talking about him, funny enough, at work today with a Villa fan, and we were on about our fantasy Premier League team because we're both about fourth in the league we're in, and we need to sort something out. And Southampton have got 2 games next week. And we were like, I've got to put a Southampton player in. But we're talking about Gabbiadini, and he's gone right off the boil, I think, over the last couple of months, which means we might get him a little bit cheaper, but I don't know whether we're in for him or not. But let me just read you this comment from Andrew Ellis, who, to be fair, I remember last season there was a couple of people who were very LVG out very, very early in the season, and they proved to be right. And I hope Andrew's wrong, but he is quite critical of Mourinho, but he's very consistent with it, and I'm not going to slag somebody off for that because it's an opinion. And he says, Jose is a failure. Louis van Gaal got top 4 in his first year. I want Jose out because I don't see any good signs that we will improve at all. What would you say to Andrew about that, Joe?
Well, Louis van Gaal came into a team that still had a lot of the players who won the title in 2013, and Van Gaal wrecked that squad, and that's the reason why I think Jose's failed this year, because he came into an extremely damaged squad. Well, with Van Gaal and Moyes, they still had the resonance of that title win in 2013 in the squads.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. Right, let me have a look. Well, thanks for calling in, Joe. Very, very good call again. I was just going to send you a message via Skype, but I don't know whether we are contact requested on there or anything. But I'll send you one after the show. It's just something that's occurred to me, if that's okay. But great call again, and please do call in again.
Will do.
Cheers, pal. Thank you.
Bye.
I liked that. I liked actually being able to take one of your questions and throw it to one of our guests. So that's really good. Let's take somebody else. Johnny's been trying to call in a couple of times. Johnny, can you hear me?
Hi there, Mark. How's it going?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
What was it you wanted to talk about?
Well, I think that one of the reasons Mourinho's had a underwhelming maybe season this year has been we have too many players that don't have that longevity of the others. So when you look at players like Ibrahimovic and De Gea, they're amazing, but we know that both of them are leaving soon, and we have players like Herrera and we have players like Mkhitaryan who I think they will flourish if they just have the right stars that are going to stay, if that makes sense.
It does. So in relation to the summer, what are the areas that you think we need to improve? Because there will be people going out the door, and I think there's a very, very changeable opinion on this. And I'm tempted to say experienced, but I always fall into the trap with transfers where I start talking about 7 or 8 signings. And also I'll start saying we're going to sell 5 or 6 players. I can tell you now that's not going to happen. We may only sign 4. We may only sell 3. You're talking about players that we've currently got there. of which only a handful have probably consistently stood up to the plate this season. I'm thinking Bailly, I'm thinking Herrera, I'm thinking Valencia, obviously Zlatan, who won't be here anyway. Pogba's got better and better. Mata, I think, has been very consistent. And out of those 5 or 6, I think everybody else, while some of them have been good, they've not been consistent throughout the season. And obviously people like Rashford are going to be here anyway, and they've ended the season well. But who do you think is going to be out of the club? Because you could easily say, and they won't all go, you could easily say Fellaini, Jones, Smalling, Rooney, Carrick.
I think they all need to go, the players you just mentioned. And I also think it's important to bring people in, because I'm from Aberdeen, right, in Scotland, where Alex Ferguson was before United. And I always think back to what he did over the 25, 27, I think, years that he was at Manchester. And he built up just a solid team where every one of those players, as you say, weren't deadwood. You know, everyone carried their weight and worked for it. And I think we have too many players right now. Like, I think Rooney has done a real good service for the club, but I think he has to go. I think Fellaini is a stopgap, and we need someone like Kante, or, you know, a real working player in there. I think we need a new goalkeeper to basically save us when De Gea goes. And I think when Zlatan leaves, we need a striker who's going to stay and just take on that burden. Someone like Griezmann, or someone like, even maybe if we tried to get someone like Aubameyang, you know, and build up a tall, athletic, pacey team, you know, with players like Pogba and Aubameyang. Because that's one of the things that I think works about Fellaini and Ibrahimovic at the moment, is their height. We have a lot of good aerial attack. It's just that we don't have consistency with the players, and we know that some of them are going to be gone soon, you know?
Yeah. Aubameyang's an interesting name. I mean, I often spend time at work thinking about football, like we all do. And he's definitely in that. I mean, that's the point of the show, really. He's definitely in that Champions League or no category. We will not get Aubameyang without the Champions League. I will argue with somebody about Griezmann, and I will let them say, look, we could get Griezmann without the Champions League, because he's mid-20s. He's got that relationship with Pogba. I personally think we need Champions League to get Griezmann. I'll ask you that in a minute. But in relation to Aubameyang, he's closer to 30 than he is 25. He's not going to want to waste a season or maybe 2 outside of the Champions League. So we're only going to get him if we've got Champions League. But I think I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if we signed him, because a lot of people are saying he's going to go to Real Madrid, but Mbappe is probably for sale this summer. There's another striker of real talent as well that I forget about that's up for grabs. They can't sign them all.
Yeah.
What do you think about... Sorry, go on.
I think a lot of people are too critical of Mourinho, or saying Mourinho, you know, you look at how long, again, like Ferguson spent at the club, almost 27 or 8 years. Yeah. And then after one season, people are like, Mourinho needs to go. And I mean, it's different when you look at someone like Van Gaal, because he just came in and made a mess. You know, as the last caller said, he damaged the squad really badly. And I think now those repairs will involve signing someone like Griezmann. We need a real star. I don't know how you feel about this. I'm curious to know. I even would like us to sign Ronaldo again. I think we need. Yeah, I think we need a big name and someone who's going to stay for a while and just score goals and take that, you know, that burden of, I'm going to be the one to score these goals and carry the club into a place we haven't been in a little while, you know.
It's almost like it's scripted, because the reality is, in relation to Ronaldo, I can see the live chats getting quicker, because people are going, no chance, never going to happen, this, that, and the other, bollocks, well, you know, all that rubbish, and all that jazz. But I'll tell you what, I'll keep telling you this. I'll do it on every transfer show in the morning throughout the summer. That's my dedication to you. Manchester United can do anything they want to do in the transfer market. That is a fact. I'll argue with anybody. We can do anything. I'm not saying it doesn't mean it's going to happen, but we can do anything. We're in that 3 or 4 clubs in the world that can do anything no matter what.
Yeah.
Ronaldo, funnily enough, my wife, one of her friends, was over in Madrid a couple of weeks ago. They were around the house about a couple of hours ago. We were talking about, they went to watch Real Madrid play Atletico Madrid. I tweeted out this morning about Real Madrid fans and how they're happy clappers because Ronaldo scores a hat-trick and they're all clapping him, but they've consistently booed him. Funnily enough, that friend was telling me that when they were there, Ronaldo was getting booed in the Atletico Madrid game. Apparently, he was getting booed a bit last night. So Ronaldo could leave Real Madrid. The problem is I don't know whether he gets on with Mourinho, but he was coming back. He was coming back that summer. So Alex Ferguson retired and unfortunately retired.
Mm-hmm. So, can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah, go on.
If we, with the way the De Gea situation looks, if we had to take a player from Madrid, it's looking like James Rodriguez at the moment. If we could choose any one player from Madrid, who would you pick and why?
It's a tough question because there's a lot of people to pick. I was very encouraged by what Di Marzio said last night on his article. That we would like Toni Kroos, because I think Kroos with Pogba and Herrera would be a dream. They're all the right age. I think they could dominate Premier League and Europe. So I think it would have to be Kroos, apart from Ronaldo, obviously, because I think Ronaldo up front as a replacement for Zlatan would fire us to absolutely everything. So for me, it would be Ronaldo or Kroos. I like Varane, but I agree with a lot of what people say in the live comments that can he adapt to the Premier League and is he a bit injury prone? But what about you? Because it's your call.
For me, it would be Ronaldo would be top of the pile. I think, obviously, as United fans, we're biased, but he's got that star power, if anything more so than Zlatan, where he could come in and I think he would motivate the rest of the team. And I also think him being at the club may possibly make it, this might sound silly, but might inspire other players to be more willing to come here, such as someone like a Griezmann, or, well, maybe not because he's from Atletico, but, you know, another player might say, hey, I want to play in the same side as Ronaldo and be more open to coming here, someone like a midfielder, you know? And I think that power would really work. It's just a question of, can Ronaldo, is he 31 at the moment? Can he still keep up with things in the Premier League at the moment?
Look at Zlatan at 35, though. I think that's the great thing about Zlatan. I mean, a lot of people still not convinced that Zlatan was a good thing. I think what Zlatan has shown, if you look after your body, and Ronaldo certainly does, I think Ronaldo would be so perfect because he's good in the air, he's good on the ball. I think he'd be perfect. Whether it can be done out of 100%, I'd say it's probably way down at 10-20%. But as I said, Manchester United can do anything, absolutely anything. Fantastic call, Johnny. Is it your first time?
Thanks a lot. Yeah, it's my first time. I've been watching for a while, and I finally thought, hey, I'm going to call tonight. So yeah.
Well, definitely call again. It was a really good call.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Cheers, pal. Thank you. We seem to get blessed at the moment. I think more and more of you have obviously been watching the Skype shows. You know what to do when you come on. You hear what everyone else is doing, and most of you replicate it. We're very, very fortunate. So thanks for everybody who's called in so far. Please do drop a like, because I think we've had some great calls again. Support. Look, I like to get likes on the other videos because I've got an ego. No, I haven't really, but I like to get likes on these shows because it is you. It's core. It's not scripted. It's brilliant. So please do support those who are calling in. Patrick Akonma has made a contribution through the super chat. Thank you, Patrick. He says Bale is more realistic. Asanyo has taken his place. Well, Bale's been very injured this season. What I can tell you is I don't know a load about Real Madrid, but the boyfriend of this girl who they went there, Atletico Real Madrid, I was talking to him tonight, and he was saying, we were talking about Ronaldo, because he said, well, what do you think about the hat-trick last night? I said, look, I love Ronaldo. I think if I had a choice between Ronaldo and Messi, I know it's controversial, I would take Ronaldo every single time, because Messi probably is the better footballer, but Ronaldo wins things. You know, like people have been saying today, Messi lifts shirts, Ronaldo lifts trophies. I just think Ronaldo's way more efficient, and I love Ronaldo because he was at United. So he said, look, I can really see that either Bale, Benzema, or Ronaldo will leave Real Madrid this summer because Real Madrid want to bring players in, and the fans don't really like any of them. But Real Madrid boo anybody. So it's interesting, isn't it? You know, is Bale unrealistic to Manchester United? I've always said if Bale leaves Real Madrid, there's only one place he will come. That's Manchester United. Gareth Bale hasn't even been bloody mentioned by anybody yet. He gets mentioned every April and May about Manchester United. He's not been mentioned. Interesting, I think. But there we go. Let's give Kieran a go. Kieran, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you loud and clear.
How you doing, pal?
I'm alright. Your show's pretty decent, so I thought may as well give it a call.
Okay, no worries. Sound very laid back, Kieran. What was it you wanted to talk about?
No, I was just going to go and actually have a bit of a talk about the transfers that possibly will need to be made at Manchester United. I also was going to talk about what you were talking about a bit earlier in the show about the impact of Champions League and Europa League. And I just want to say that even though we're not in the Europa League, I think we're still one of the biggest clubs in the world. And I still think we can attract really high quality talent to the club because we showed that in Paul Pogba. I mean, no one would have, expected Paul Pogba to come to a Europa League side when he's playing for Juventus week in, week out. And at the time, he was one of the best midfielders in the world. And we still got him. And I do think that some people might say it's a bad thing, but I'd say that footballers do indeed, money's a big thing for them. And I would say that if we offer the money, there's a lot of players who will come for the club for the right amount of money, and I do think that price tag matters quite a lot. Of course, European football does. I mean, especially with Griezmann, I would say, I'm not sure if Atletico Madrid will want to let him go, but it's going to be an astronomical price tag for Griezmann, but I would say he's worth every single penny if we do get him. But one player in particular I think is quite likely we could get him is actually James Rodriguez. Now, he's not playing, week in, week out for Real Madrid, and he's a really high quality talent. And I do think if we sign him, he'll really change our team. And imagine Pogba, Herrera, and James Rodriguez in a team together. That would just be absolutely amazing. And I mean, we can definitely challenge for the title. I do think we need to bring in a few people. I do think we need to get rid of a few people, but I definitely think we can attract really high quality talent because Man United now is, it's a company, but it's also one of the biggest clubs in the world still. And I definitely think the badge and the history of the club also attracts players as well.
You made a few good points there. In relation to the money, I think it's a really good point. I think, it's very easy to say that, Griezmann or Aubameyang won't come to Manchester United if we're not in the Champions League. And I think, that could be the case. But what you point about the money is absolutely spot on. And it makes me want to ask this question of you. Do you think, Matt, that Paul Pogba came to Manchester United for the money? Because I do. I really do. I think he did.
I'm not going to lie to you. I think that was a very, very big part of it because I don't think many other clubs in the world, maybe Real Madrid, could have offered the sum of money that we did for Paul Pogba. And that definitely was probably one of the deciding factors. I also thought, the history with Manchester United maybe helped slightly. But I do totally agree with you that the money these days really does attract footballers, and especially with Paul Pogba. So I definitely think, our transfer kitty is big every single year. So hopefully we can use that to our advantage. And I really do think that we can bring in high-profile signings, but in some cases we might not need to bring in really high-profile signings. I mean, there's players out there who maybe wouldn't have cost us that much money, but they actually might make a huge amount of difference. Like Kante to Chelsea, he didn't cost that much money to them, but he on his own has just been the driving force for their title push this season as getting the Player of the Year award. So, maybe we don't need to spend that much money, but I definitely agree with the fact that money is really a driving force in the modern game for players to move from club to club.
I think the Kante point's brilliant. I've said it a few times that Manchester United included, as well as City and Arsenal and everybody else who had European football. Let's not forget Chelsea had no European football and finished mid-table last year, and they acquired Kante from beneath the noses of teams that were in the Champions League, like I say, City, as in the Europa League. Everyone missed that, and he was a fantastic signing, and I think he's been a big reason why Chelsea are now the champions. Somebody was tweeting it today on, and they were saying to us that, look, I really hope Manchester United and Mourinho go and sign 2 or 3 players like Bailly. He says, I want a couple. I don't mind getting a couple of players like Griezmann that are high profile, top class, big names, but I would like us to go and sign 2 or 3 Eric Baillys that nobody really knows anything about, that Mourinho has scouted and they're not majorly expensive, but they'll come in, a bit like you said about Kante there, and make a big impact. And I predict that will happen. I think there will be players that we try to cover everybody on this channel. We've probably spoke about 40 players over the last month. But hopefully there's one or two players that we've not spoken about that will come in. Maybe there is a centre-back out there who's playing for someone like, I don't know, like Villarreal again, or an Italian side, or a Portuguese side, or a midfielder that nobody's mentioned. And those sort of signings could be really important.
I mean, exactly, because, there's under Sir Alex Ferguson, I mean, the example with Ronaldo, we did not pay millions of pounds. Of course, it was, it was a different, it was a bit of a different era. But I mean, with Ronaldo, he's become one of the best players. And if you can spot potential in, people like, I don't know, but if you can spot potential in players and get them, and their price tag isn't that great, and with a world-class manager like Mourinho, he can bring players through, and he can buy someone who he thinks is going to be a great player, and he can bring them through, coach them up, and he can make a player who's going to be a fantastic player and a solid player to add to our team and make a dynasty at Manchester United, similar to Rio Ferdinand and Nemanja Vidic. I think definitely you don't need to buy these really expensive players. Of course, it's good to buy the really expensive players because they're usually quite proven players. But I mean, just to buy players which don't have the biggest price tag, but I mean, like Ronaldo and people like this, and if you see the progress they can make and you see how good they can be, it definitely, if you and also, I mean, there's one point, I don't think this is that relevant, but there's just other fans saying that, Pogba's a flop just because of the money and stuff like that. And if you buy a player who's doesn't, you don't pay that much money for him, then, I mean, maybe fans won't get on your back about it, but that's not really relevant in this point. I just wanted to add that. But yeah, I would say, definitely, I think players with lower price tags maybe potentially might not have as much pressure on them from the media and all that to perform, so they might perform better. But that's sort of what I think on that sort of matter.
Very good, Kieran. Very good call. Thanks for calling in. Where are you calling from?
I'm actually calling from Cambridgeshire at the moment, so yeah.
Well, great debut. Please do call in again. Really good points.
Yeah, I will call in again. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kieran.
And great channel you're running.
Thanks, mate. Speak to you soon.
Bye.
Again, very, very, very good caller, and I think it's just. I tell you what, you should just take these callers as a representative of yourselves because it's consistent now. We're getting really good calls all the time. A real pleasure, and it's fast turning into my favourite content on the channel because I love interacting. It's just like having a chat with somebody about football. You don't know what they're going to say, which is great. So please do drop a like on the video and support everybody who's been on the show tonight. Juventus beating Monaco 2-0 in Monaco. I tweeted this out before. 30 odd years on this planet, and one thing is true, that Italian teams are very professional and very clinical and very cynical, and they know how to see a game out and they know how to see ties out, and I would say that tie is pretty much over. Monaco have had their chances, but they've not been clinical, and the professional experience of Juventus has outdone the youth exuberance of Monaco. There we go. Jones and Smalling are back, says Spalacus66. Yeah, team news from Manchester United. Obviously very excited about the game tomorrow. We can talk about it now because it's towards the back end of the show. We will be live tomorrow night at around 6:45 because the kickoff's about 8 o'clock, isn't it, with the team news. Pogba back, Mata back, Bailly back, Jones and Smalling back. I saw somebody on Twitter say it today. It's 2 weeks too late, lads. I mean, it's great to have you back. You can play at centre-back against Arsenal and we can rest Bailly and Blind for all I care because you've not got yourselves back quick enough. I mean, Mata getting back from a groin injury was one thing. Bailly goes off injured on Sunday and he's back playing on Thursday. That's dedication. That's what Mourinho's on about, playing through the pain barrier, playing for the badge. Smalling and Jones have had a month on FIFA and it's not been good enough. But I think they will pay the price. I think they will be gone in the summer. But it's good to have them back. It's good. It's great to get effectively 5 players back in Mata, Pogba, Bailly, Jones and Smalling. It just helps the squad, especially in relation to the league, which I think if you listen to Mourinho today, he's basically saying that the league's gone. I think it is. I think you can't draw. mathematically it's there, but you can't expect us to go and beat Arsenal and Spurs when we can't beat Swansea. I know our record's good, but away record's good, but I think it'll be very, very, very difficult. Let's have a look at some of your live comments, because I know there's people calling in, but I just want to have a look at that. Total Description says, what about Higuain, Mark? Could we sign him? I've never been absolutely mad about Higuain. I know he scores a lot of goals, but if you're infuriated by the chances that Zlatan's missed this season, they're quite similar. He'll score a lot of goals, but he'll miss a lot in big games. Does it for Argentina, he's done it throughout his career. But let's not forget, didn't Juventus spend like 70 million on him last summer? Do you want to spend 70 million on Higuain? If it was 30 or 40 million, yeah, but not for that much money, no way. Rooney should start. Somebody said, I won't name you. It's not fair to have you picked on. Beer Eat, I think he's saying we won't get James Rodriguez without Champions League. He's better than Griezmann. I think we would. I think we'd get him with Europa League. We lack match winners, says Ronak. I would agree with that. Imagine Rashford and Aubameyang's pace, says SKS, KSK. Well, I said a few weeks ago that don't be surprised if we sign Mendy from Monaco. I'd probably rather have. He's a very good left back, and we need a left back if Mourinho's not going to play Luke Shaw. But I quite like. If I could have one player from Monaco, I think actually I'm going to shock a few people here and say that it would probably be Fabinho, because I think Fabinho just suits us better for what we need. We need a centre defensive midfielder, and also he can play right back. And Mbappe, I think he's a good player, but is he a flash in the pan? He's got a lot of development. We've already got two people like that with Martial and Rashford. I think our striker's got to be experienced. You know, he's got to be at least 23. He's got to have done it, not need development. So Fabinho would be my one from Monaco, to be honest. Got that. Thoughts on Dembele, Mark, from Dortmund? Well, Dortmund have got a few good players. Let's develop our youth to fill spots on the squad and then fill the areas that are still weak, says Rick H. Take a long time to do that. And who do I think will win the Champions League? Robbie Best, Real Madrid. I think they'll be the first club to in the modern Champions League to win it and retain it. We had a chance, didn't we, in 2009? Was it? Did we get to the final straight after the Champions League? We did. We were in Rome, weren't we? I fucked it up. I don't think we need Rodriguez, says Argent. Belotti, says Sohal. We could get Belotti without Champions League football. And Nihal says, we forgot to read his comment that he paid for. Easy for me to go back. Sometimes it does get missed on a show. Let me just get that for you. Yes, so very excited about tomorrow. I sort of missed the points on there. Very excited about it. I don't know what to expect, but I am very excited about it. Nihal made a contribution. Thanks for that. He said, Fabinho looks crap today. We need someone better. But so did Bakayoko. And Patrick O'Connor made a contribution as well. And he said, thanks, Patrick. Bale is more realistic. Oh, no, I did read that one. So it was just Nihal's comment. So thanks for that, Nihal. He wasn't impressed with Fabinho, but I thought he did okay. And I think what you've got to... I think people make a mistake as well. I think people start making mistakes about, Griezmann wasn't very good compared to Ronaldo last night. That's not. You can't judge somebody just on one performance. And also, what you've got to remember is that what will Mourinho get out of that talent? Because they're definitely talented. So what will Mourinho bring out of that talent? And I think that Mourinho will bring a lot out of that talent. So yeah, I would take Fabinho. I would take. Obviously, I would take Griezmann as well, 100%. Right, I've lost my stream. I've lost my bloody stream. Get back. Oh, I just wanted to ask as well, what are people thinking about the morning transfer show we've been doing? 2 mornings in a row, 7 a.m. it goes up, 5 to 10 minutes sort of roundup of the papers. Are you enjoying it? Do you want us to carry on doing it? We will do one tomorrow, but obviously we want to listen to what you lot have got to say about it. Please do drop a like on this video. That would be fantastic. And I must just add that some of you may have been aware that we have now got a United Stand members club through Patreon. It's $1 a month, which is about 80 pence a month. There's loads of exclusive content going up on there. And that's not impacting on YouTube. There's a chat option in there. There is extras that you can get. We're going to start doing extra live content on there, but there are extra videos going up on there. If you are interested in supporting the United Stand and getting in the United Stand Members Club, we will be doing membership cards in the next couple of months. That's the second paragraph in the video description to sign up for that. And as a little welcome for those who are thinking about doing it, I have put an exclusive video up on there about an hour ago, which is my top 4 signings for Manchester United this summer. I would make if we were only making 4 transfers this summer. If we're not just 4, what would the 4 signings I would make this summer? It could be anybody. I've highlighted the positions that I think we need to do and the players I would get for them. And I think you'd be quite surprised by what they are. That's only on the United Stand Members Club though. So if you want to see it, sign up and get involved on the United Stand Members Club. The video description has the link on the second paragraph. But thanks everybody. Fantastic show. Really, really enjoyed it. Make sure you've dropped a like on the video and support everybody who's come on. It was absolutely thoroughly enjoyable. I didn't decide to open it up to Skype until about 5 minutes before it. So I'm glad that everybody was saying we want Skype said that, because it's made what was going to be a 20-minute show virtually an hour show, which I've thoroughly enjoyed. So thanks everybody for that. We'll be back with the Skype Goldbridge probably next Monday, but you never know, we might do one sooner. We're live every night at 8:30, remember that. We're also doing shows at 7 o'clock in the morning, so you're getting 2 a day at the moment. I hope you're enjoying it. Lots going on. Tomorrow night we'll be live with the watch along. I can't wait. It's really exciting. That'll get me through work tomorrow. And if you've not had your fill of United Stand, remember we put a video out this morning at 7 a.m, a transfer show, rounding up probably 5 or 6 rumours there. And if you want even more, like I say, second paragraph, video description, I've got my 4 signings on the United Stand Members Club on Patreon. I'd love to, if you are going to sign up, make sure you leave a comment. I want to know what you think about it. But thanks everyone for watching. Back tomorrow morning and back tomorrow night with the watch along. Massive game tomorrow. Biggest game of our season. Biggest game of our season. If we can get over Celta Vigo, we're at home at Old Trafford in the second leg, and then the finals on a neutral territory. I think tomorrow's game is probably potentially the toughest of all 3. Thanks everyone for watching. Speak to you all soon. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll be back tomorrow morning for you.